Welcome back to Everyman Prepping. Hope you're having a great day. And it's time to go over another list of possible food shortages that are going to be in 2023. This article is written in 2022 from Mashed. I'll link it below. But it's a good list to go over so we can kind of give ourselves a little bit of a primer as to what to look out for and maybe what to stockpile in this coming year. Some shortages I don't agree with on here. Some are going to be economic shortages, meaning buy it now before it goes up in price. But let's dig into it and we can go from there. As we get started here, I would ask also, please like the video, comment on the video, share it, subscribe if you haven't done so, and everybody ring that bell. So the first one they list on here is bread. And why is bread a shortage? Well, we got a war going on in Europe. And so this is mostly going to, I think, impact our friends over across the pond in the United Kingdom, in the European Union, in the Mideast, where a lot of the shipments from Ukraine go out. So as the war continues, and I believe Russia's going to go for another offensive here soon, the grain shipments this next year are going to be even less. And if the war escalates, there's not going to be anything moving in the Black Sea. So yes, bread will be a shortage. And also for us here in the United States, we'll also have higher prices because a lot of the wheat that we grow here is going to be sold over in Europe and other countries to make up for the shortfall because they'll be buying at a higher price and they're going to sell to the highest bidder, of course. Next one on here, vegetable oil. Vegetable oil, as most of you know, is made with seed crops, oil seed crops, which really isn't that good for you. You got soybean oil, sunflower, canola, which is also rapeseed oil. It's not good for you because to get oil out of those seeds, they have to do some harsh chemical treatments to it to get the oil out. Not the greatest for you, but this coincides with what we just talked about, the war in Europe. Most of the sunflower oil comes from Ukraine. That's where they grow most of it. And it says here, but the chance of a 2023 vegetable oil shortage isn't solely related to Russia and Ukraine. There's also a palm oil shortage in Indonesia. They shut down shipments last year. They might do it again this year. But I would suggest to get around this one is switch to olive oil. Much more healthier. It's not a seed oil. It can be a little more expensive, especially organic variety. If you really money isn't an option, isn't really a problem with you, you can go avocado oil, which is even more expensive. But you can use olive oil any place you want to use vegetable oil except for baking. You don't want to bake with olive oil, so you're going to need some regular old vegetable oil. But if you can switch most of your if you can switch most of your cooking into an olive oil, you'll be healthier and it's not on the list of things that are probably going to be in shortage for you. Corn. You're saying, how can corn be on this list? We grow tons of corn in the United States. Well, there's a lot of corn grown over there in Europe as well, which is having that conflict. But what happened here in the United States is that there was less corn planted this year than last year. So in 2022, the amount of corn planted was smaller than 2021, which is going to lead to a smaller harvest because they had some weather problems and a corn shortage. Not really a shortage, more of an economic shortage. Depends if they ship a lot of it to use as ethanol, if it's going into cornmeal, corn syrup, corn products are in a lot of things. So as it says here, the reduced corn harvest does unfortunately mean the world will be facing relatively high food prices for an extended period. So this is one of those economic shortages. There'll be enough corn, but it's going to be more expensive. So will gas go up because ethanol is more expensive, or will baked goods, refined baked goods go up because of the corn syrup and other corn products, possibly. But as it says here, the overall drop in cost isn't expected to occur until 2024. So look for corn products to be more expensive. Grab those now if you can to help alleviate the pain at that one. Butter's on the list next, and there's no real excuse as to why butter is, but it's in short supply. And I face that at the store when I go to. Butter is super. It's sometimes up to $6 for a pound of butter. It's super expensive. Get it when you can on sale. Look for small grocery stores, maybe a Trader Joe's or something. If you have those, that can be a little less expensive. But yes, butter, I can find it missing a lot of times and getting very expensive. So another economic shortage. This says here, amidst crushing inflation levels in 2022, you may have already noticed a rising price of butter at your store, just like I said. This says stocks of cold stored butter has diminished to its lowest level since 2017. The only thing they give it as a reason is less milk production, less dairy production. I don't know if that's a reason of the drought or the expense of raising the cattle and feeding them, that they just cut their herds like we've talked about. So, yes. But by the way, like I've talked before, butter stores great in the freezer. So if you can find it on sale, buy whatever you can, stockpile it, put it in the freezer. This next one is not a shortage. It might be a shortage, but who cares? It's candy. Hershey candy. Not a problem. Not going to talk about it. Don't care if that's in short supply. Kind of the same goes to this next one, champagne. Is champagne a necessary food? No. Do we care if it's in short supply? No. It sounds like a first world problem. Not going to waste time on this one, but yeah, so champagne might be in shortage. I don't know if that's going to really impact anybody. This one, though, is going to impact, and we've talked about it since summer, tomatoes. So most of the tomatoes in the United States, come from California. As it says here, in 2021, more than a third of the U.S. vegetables were grown in California, along with 75% of the fruits and nuts. And the drought is what's killing it. It says here that, as the drought and heat on a tomato plant causes it to grow slower, less fruit, and smaller fruit, which means they can't use the tomatoes, produce what they used to produce out of it. A certain amount of tomatoes needed, a certain type of tomatoes needed for paste or sauce or salsa or whatever. And if they don't have, the quality's not good in the tomato, then it's in decline. There'll be a shortage and the price will go up. And it says here that more than half of the state was in a exceptional drought as of October 2022. Now, I know you're hearing stories right now. There's large rain out there. They're supposed to expect another large one coming the next day or so. That's helping, but California is going to need more of those storms this year. They're still going to remain drought. They're going to need 4 or 5, 6 of those huge storms to even break that drought. So we'll see how it goes. But if that drought continues, look for tomatoes to be scarce and expensive. Solution to that one, grow your own. Tomatoes are super easy to grow. They grow in a lot of climates. Get some seeds now. Start growing them. February, March. Plant the seeds indoors. Get them in the soil after that. Depends on your climate, of course. Tomatoes are very forgiving, easy to grow. Grow your own tomatoes. You'll be happy. They'll taste better too. Now this says flour. Well, obviously, if bread's a shortage, it's because flour's a shortage. It goes into here a little bit saying that, for the same reasons that it's on the list because flour is used in some other products. But yes, flour's a shortage because wheat's a shortage because of the war, which led to a bread shortage. Next one, beef. We talked a little bit about this. The drought is killing the cattle market. It says, ultimately, the widespread incidence of skyrocketing prices on basic food items isn't likely to change much in 2023, particularly when it comes to beef. It says here, industry insiders already were anticipating a price increase of 15% back last September after the drought forced many farmers to sell off their cattle more than they anticipated because they couldn't keep them fed, couldn't keep them watered. The food was too high, so they, like I told you in previous videos, they killed off their herds. They culled the herd to bring the numbers down to where they can keep them fed and watered. This led to a glut at the time of meat, but when you do this, it says here, this will inevitably reduce the number of cows that went to slaughter in the future and until the herds can be replenished over time. So if you sell off your birthing cows because you can't raise them and they harvest those for meat, well, you can't replace the calves they would have had right away. So there is going to be a shortage of beef. So look out for that. Go to your local farm if you have one, even if it's maybe 50 or 60 miles away. Team up with some neighbors. Go to a local farmer, local rancher. See if they'll sell you half, a quarter cow straight from the farm. You'll save money. It'll be better, and you can avoid all the middlemen taking part of the money as it goes. Next shortage isn't a food, but it's an item to store food in. So they're saying there's an aluminum can shortage. There's an aluminum shortage. The worldwide aluminum shortage in 2022 was caused by a major increase in demand. Now, to go against what they just said, they said, however, fairly few food items are still packed in aluminum cans these days, except for beverages and, beers and sodas. So, yeah, aluminum's in shortage, but we don't use it. So, I don't know what they're saying on this. I don't agree. This is one that I don't really agree with. There is an aluminum shortage, but if we don't package it in, because we mostly use tin and some aluminum lined tin, I don't know if it's really going to be a shortage. But that will lead to a shortage of beverages, which we'll talk later on in this article. Then they get into the farm-grown produce. This is the important one of the most important ones. Because as it says here, there's a worldwide fertilizer shortage. Everybody knows that. Everybody's heard about it. Russia produces a ton of fertilizers over there, and obviously they're not selling to unfriendly countries. They're in a war, so it's going to affect, many, if not all, as it says here, farm-grown fruits and vegetables in 2023. It says that Russia is one of the world's largest producers of all three main fertilizer types, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. And if they're preoccupied and not selling to friendly countries, that's going to be a lot less, especially in Brazil. They get a ton of fertilizers over there, so that's going to hurt. And then, of course, there's the continuous drought in the U.S. and the giant weather problems we're having. Not only, we talked about the drought, but we just had the Arctic blast that came down through the red winter wheat of the Midwest. How much damage did that do? We'll know soon the damage it did, but there's some predictions that 30%, 50% cut in the red winter wheat. So that's a huge problem. So what you can do for this is start your own garden, grow your own vegetables, and also get your fertilizer now. Buy your whatever fertilizer you use. You get it now because it's wintertime. No one's thinking about it. Get it now so you have it on hand. You can grow your own fruit and vegetables with fertilizer, get a great yield out of it, because without fertilizers, yields drop like crazy. And for commercial farming, if they don't have those inputs, the yields are really going to suffer, which will cause A, shortages because less yield, B, economic shortage because what they do have is going to be a lot more expensive. And then we have beer here. So it's not to say that beer is the shortage, but there's a current aluminum shortage, which they mentioned, could decrease can production, while there's also a lack of carbon dioxide that they obviously put the bubbles, the carbonation into the beer and sodas. Not sure why there's a carbon dioxide shortage, doesn't really go into it, but there is a decrease in carbon dioxide that goes into it. And so if you can't have the inputs, you're going to have less production and higher prices. So that's the 12 items that they go through on here. Please put in the comments below what you think about this article, what you agree or disagree with. You heard of what I agreed with, what I disagree with. Put what you think in your own words down there about things you also think they should add to the list, things they should take off the list. It is going to be a year of shortages. We know that. We can mitigate what we can ourselves by growing our own, raising our own, get your chickens. If you can have cows and goats, that'd be great too. But if not, team up with your neighbors, go to local farms, split cows and pigs or goats, and bring it back. Make sure you have that freezer, and then make sure you have that backup power for if you lose power at any point while you have all that frozen food. You don't want to lose all that food, so have your generators ready to go to back it up. But if you do, pick up canning. Remember, I mentioned that, pick up canning, because when you harvest your garden for your fruits and vegetables, you can can your meats if the freezer goes dead. Make sure you get your pressure canner for those meats, but you can store it that way too, so you don't lose anything. So that's all I have for now. I thought it was a halfway decent article. Gives you something to think for, a lot of food for thought. Share this with other people, your friends or family that might not be thinking that anything's going to happen in 2023. It's a brand new year. Everything's good. The shortages are over because that was last year. So it might be good to share that with those people. And until next time, keep your ear to the ground, head on a swivel.